3-40. Both teams are now 3-3 and 1-2 in the Big 12 conference. And this is, I'm curious to see 254-339-1122 what your thoughts are on this game, Baylor Nation. There were good things. There were a lot of really bad things. And this was a game that, went down to the last, 2 possessions. Baylor didn't have enough time to even, with a redshirt freshman quarterback, think about really winning this game. But holy cow. There's a lot, Levi, to unpack here about this game.
There is. I have a feeling we're going to get some not so happy phone calls.
I would think so. And as we let me jump into the YouTube real quick. First thing, Patrick Boren, sad. Matthew Hazelhorst, RIP. So this is going to be it should be a wake-up call for Baylor. The Oklahoma State game should have been, but now they fall to 0-6 all-time in Morgantown. And Jacob, sometimes you just can't play places. And we were tired of talking about it on the show today. Craig said, tired of hearing about it. But they're 0-6, and it's a factor. And the biggest thing about this year was winning those tough games on the road. They are 1-2 on the road now, and they lost in Provo, a place they're going to have to go a lot over the next few years.
Yep.
And a place in Morgantown where they never won.
Yeah, I said in my prediction for this week that there's going to be a lot of points scored. There's going to be a lot of, Blake Shapen was going to be able to exploit this weak West Virginia secondary, which he did until he went out. JT Daniels was going to have some fun, which he did. And then Baylor was going to get the country road monkey off their back, which they clearly did not. They had control of this game for a brief period of moment. Second quarter, it felt like it was pretty well under control when they were up 17-7. But then those ghosts of Morgantown just came back and bit them.
Yeah, the Blake Shapen fumble changed this game. Blake Shapen was having a really good game. Kyron Jones came in. There's good news, bad news on Kyron Jones. He looked at times like a redshirt freshman, but concerned about him maybe long-term, might be a little assuaged because you can see a little bit what he's got. Both these secondaries, there is neither of these teams in the secondary should feel really great about themselves tonight.
No.
And Baylor's tackling was abysmal. This defense is really far off from last year, and they lost a lot off the defense from last year, and they haven't been able to replace it. They don't get after the quarterback like they did a year ago. They did create a turnover, but they don't create the turnovers like they did a year ago. And look, a lot of turnovers walked out the door in Terrell Bernard, JT Woods, and the king of them in Jalen Petrie. A lot of those walked out the door and are in the NFL right now. So that's a tough thing to overcome, and Baylor is going to have to figure out how to replace that. They have not done it yet. And they scored 40 points. You should win that game.
Yeah.
But 2 turnovers and the extra point block, defensive conversion, are the difference in the game.
Yeah, I think that fumble by Shapen in the second quarter, because the game, like you said, Jacob, the game kind of felt like it was starting to get out of hand for West Virginia, and that fumble gave them the momentum back. It was back and forth from then on, and then when Shapen went out, you started to get a little nervous. And Kyron Jones played pretty well up until that pick, but he's a redshirt freshman. I mean,
yeah, he looked like a redshirt freshman at times. That last drive totally looked like he didn't understand the assignment, which you get it. In that moment in Morgantown, it's loud. They're about to win the game. You're trying to make a play. They're dropping 8. There's nobody that's really going to be open.
He didn't lose that game. The secondary and lack of tackling lost that game.
Yeah, that was the thing that could be, but there are the troubling thing is that the Big 12, Jacob, we talk about it in the Big 1-2 every Monday. Mm-hmm. This is not a league where you get like, oh, it'll be okay because somebody's come around that you can beat.
Yeah, I think, like you said, this is a league where everybody has a chance to beat everybody. This might have been West Virginia's beating somebody, but it also might have been Baylor not being as good as we thought at the beginning of the season. We're really starting to see the players that they lost last year. It has really played a detriment to their team. They have not reloaded like everyone thought they did.
Yeah, and I would think the most troubling thing I would say is that this team has an identity. What was it supposed to be? What was it last year? It was power running. It was going for it on 4th down. It was
physical defense.
Physical defense. What have I said tonight that makes you think that they're anywhere near that right now?
I don't think they have an identity. I mean, you kind of each week you're searching for it, and you thought after that win in Ames, like, oh, maybe they're starting to figure themselves out. Like maybe they were just kind of waiting till conference play to get things rolling and open up the playbook and whatnot. But we're starting to see how bad Iowa State is, and so what does that win mean now? Not much.
You're right. Iowa State can't score, and Baylor scored on them, but now that doesn't appear to be all that impressive, even though it was on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. That was embarrassing. West Virginia took a W for getting a carding call. That's a heck of a play for them. Well, yeah, I mean, they got that. Like Blake Shapen left the game. But, again, that's not also why they lost.
No.
Like, they lost the game by plays around that. That had one really to do with Shapen, which was just an oopsie-daisy fumble.
But, I mean, he was playing fantastic.
Yeah.
So, like, you can't blame the whole loss on him at all, just from that one play.
Yeah, there's a lot. 254-339-1122. Call us, text us right now, and we'll talk about it. We'll work through it, Baylor fans, or if you're a West Virginia fan, how about it? Matthew Hazelhorst, $1.98 super chat. Big Ten talk during every commercial and halftime on the, I guess on the YouTube stream that he was watching. I'm not sure it would.
FS1 maybe?
Yeah. Daryl Zimmer, would Gary have won that game? I need people to stop it.
No.
Stop it. That's about the 15th time I've heard this in the last 2 weeks.
Blake had 300 yards through 2.5 quarters.
He was carving them up.
Yeah, he was having an absolutely phenomenal game, minus that fumble.
Would Gary have won the game if they had moved him to linebacker or something and he was good at that? Maybe.
The only game I could see that argument for is the BYU game, just because that physical running style maybe would have made a difference, but no.
Yeah. I don't.
I mean, if we're going to talk quarterback controversy, what was I saying here in the studio when Kyron came in? I said, hey, he's hurt. There's a really good, or supposed to be really good freshman coming in soon. This is your chance to really take reins on this job. So you don't have to start thinking about the old transfer portal. I don't want to open up a huge can of worms on Kyron Drones because he looked pretty good at times.
Yeah.
But his window to receive starting playing time for this team is very, very small.
Well, because it is Blake Shapen. And look, you saw what Blake Shapen can do tonight. That's why he's the starting quarterback. Gary Bohannon never had a game like that. Never did. Mm-hmm. And that's not because that's not what they asked Gary Bohannon to do. Kyron Jones came in and showed that, he's capable of probably leading this team at times, but he's also a redshirt freshman. But like you said, Jacob, Austin Novosad's coming in here. And in the real world of college football right now, there's not a lot of people who sit and wait.
Nope.
Especially at that position at quarterback, because you can't have three of them on the field at once.
Yeah, I could easily see Kyron Jones, whether he has success at Baylor or not. I could see him hitting the transfer portal and having great success at some place, say in the Sun Belt, Conference USA, American.
Yeah. And look, he's still
talented.
He's a redshirt freshman.
Talented.
I wouldn't say he couldn't go to another Power 5 school and play and play well if that's what he does. But we saw some good things from him tonight. I think he played really well in spots, but that was the duality of a redshirt freshman quarterback that has talented, good arm, really stood in there well.
Cool as a cucumber.
Bravely made some plays, but still was a redshirt freshman. Mm-hmm. Bottom line. And you can't change your spots just like that. And there are things that came up. 254-339-1122. Let's load up the calls. Let's load up the texts. Let's take our first break right here. When we come back, more. We'll get in the chat room a little bit more about this game. And it's going crazy right now. More and more people tuning in to see what's going on and to commiserate. But and to West Virginia's credit, I think we are a Baylor postgame show, but to West Virginia's credit, they came in and made plays at home when they had to. They didn't look great at times. I mean, these are two teams that have the exact same record, and they have the exact same record for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can talk about it in the next segment, but they ran the ball so well tonight.
And no C.J. Donaldson, who they were worried about not having, and the Morgantown Ghosts once again jump up and scare the Bears out of winning. 254-339-1122. This is the Baylor postgame show. SIGM 365, 365 Sports. Richard Carr and his team are standing by the Bears in all sports this coming season, but Richard Carr's passion for football started many years ago when he was a trainer for the football team. In addition to his alma mater, Richard Carr also loves selling quality cars and trucks to his Central Texas neighbors. Whether you want the unbeatable GMC Sierra truck loaded with luxury and strong and tough for the workday, or the performance and ride of a Cadillac or Buick SUV, Richard Carr has an amazing lineup of vehicles for you. Stop by for a test drive, contact them online, or call and say sick 'em and you're immediately a VIP at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Find them at Highway 6 at the Imperial exit or at richardcarr.com.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
TFNB, Your Bank for Life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Baylor falls to West Virginia 43-40, and both teams are 3-3. Both teams are 1-2 in the conference, and this is a close game. One of these teams is on the up right now in West Virginia. They've won 3 games in a row. They were 0-3, right? Or they 1-2.
What?
West Virginia. No, they were 1-2. So
They were 1-2.
Yeah,
They
so
had that Towson game.
Yeah. So here they are. West Virginia's on the upswing, and Baylor is on the downswing right now.
I mean, we talked last week and earlier today about Big 12 teams getting to beat up on each other because there aren't any gimmies. Where does Baylor win? Is it on the road? Because I'm skeptical of that for one thing. Mm-hmm. But what game at this point that they're not expected to win can they pull off?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. Kansas, they're not a win, automatic win.
Yeah, and that's coming up next week at homecoming. And We don't know who's going to play quarterback for Kansas next week.
We don't know who's going to play quarterback for Baylor.
They don't know. That's the other thing. We had to talk about injuries. Let's go to the text line from the 254. Seems like every quality last year's defense had, and Brandon saw this current defense is starting to seem like the mirror opposite. Thanks for the show. Listen every day. The team cannot tackle and get out of their own way. That's very true. They did not tackle well tonight at all. It was not a. This is what Dave Aranda prides himself on. I mean, this guy's a defensive genius. Ron Roberts has coached some darn good defense over the years, and here they are not tackling and not making plays and not stopping the run.
Yeah.
I don't want to think of myself as one of these people, but I'm kind of asking myself the question, like the lady in Friday Night Lights asking Coach Gaines, "Where's the beef, Coach?" Like you said on that first down by Caden Prather, where he dragged at least 3 or 4 Bears across the first down line. Like, let's get these guys in the weight room. Like, they looked like they were physically outmanned by a wide receiver, albeit a big one, but still, 1 or 2 guys should be able to bring down a guy like that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good things that happened tonight. Gavin Holmes had a terrible game against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, he redeemed himself.
He had a career night tonight, and all for naught because it happened in a loss. And so these are things that are bad. Here's other things that are bad. Your starting quarterback is hurt, and appears to be another concussion, which has plagued them all year long.
It's plagued
missing time.
It's plagued all of football all year long.
But them in particular, I mean, like they've had a lot. Squirrel Williams looks like that's what's going on there. Maybe Richard Reese has like a broken nose or something. We got some reports of that, not confirmed yet, but likely that something's going on with Richard Reese. So at the end of the game, they had to play Quaylon Jones exclusively, and no Squirrel, already no Tay McWilliams, who we saw one game out of, and a little bit in the BYU game. And then no Richard Reese either, who's been your most consistent playmaker at running back. And Quaylon Jones is in there, who, look, he was the 4th-string running back last year, and he's the 3rd-string running back now. Maybe even still the 4th-string running. He's still the 4th-string running back. So you had your 4th-string running back in, and what did he do? He did a 4th-string thing. Fumbled the ball. Mm-hmm. And that was a killer. And everything that Baylor did was after they'd done a good thing. Big play, I mean, huge play before the Shapen fumble. Huge play, Shapen fumbles.
Mm-hmm.
Huge play. Quaylon Jones fumbles. Huge stop, right?
Right.
They get the ball back, Quaylon Jones fumbles. Huge drive coming from Kyron Jones and a big throw. Getting sacked and should have just taken it and threw an interception.
Mm-hmm.
Scores a touchdown. Gets the extra point blocked and returned for a defensive conversion, something you don't see happen all that often.
Yeah, they just got their cage rattled. I think that they were just like not necessarily undisciplined, but I would say that they lost focus, and that's typically something that we've thought of Dave Aranda and his staff is being really good at reeling his players in. I don't want to discredit or say anything ill on Dave Aranda in that light necessarily, but maybe it's just these players right now. There's something that's got to change.
Well, I think the biggest thing that you assume is that the roster was going to be the same. You can never assume that.
No.
You can't even assume it you can't even assume it for Alabama right now, right?
Right.
Yes, Bryce Young's back, but they don't have a lot of playmakers wide receiver. A&M took him to the brink last week, and that's a mediocre team as well. So, you cannot assume that the roster is going to be the same. Sometimes you get so comfortable and you see good things, and there's a lot coming back. There were 4 of the 5 starting offensive linemen coming back. Now, granted, one of those 4 hasn't played much this year in Khalil Keith, and that's been a pretty substantial loss, I think, as far as that. But, they don't have anybody who announces their presence with authority like Abram Smith in the running game.
No, they do not.
They don't. They don't have
Jalen Petrie on the defensive side to be just everywhere when the football was on the field. He was seemingly in on every play. And look, I was really surprised at how weak they were at defending the run tonight. Tony Mathis, 163 yards, averaged 7.4 yards a carry. They could not figure out a way to stop him. And I think it was because defensive line, they were just getting pushed around, and everyone was a little bit surprised about that.
I remember at the beginning of the season, people were kind of talking about Baylor, Clemson, and Pitt had some of the best D lines in the country. And I remember watching the backyard brawl at the beginning of the season, and Tony Mathis did nothing.
No, he did not.
CJ Donaldson was pretty good in that game, but Tony Mathis did nothing. And then tonight, he was just going crazy.
Yeah. So this is a team that has completely lost who they were a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that they can't find it, but it's awful tough to find it in the middle of the season.
Yeah, and especially with this conference.
Because you're not going to get a break. Oklahoma's going to get Dylan Gabriel back eventually. Now, they have a really bad defense too. But Dylan Gabriel's still going to be there, and you're going to play a lot of shootout games with Oklahoma down the stretch. Brent Venables isn't going down without a fight this year, and he's not going to get fired. I mean, don't get it twisted. They're going to let that work itself out because that was unprecedented change there. But, Texas Tech is they got to play Tech in Lubbock.
Yeah, they got to go to Lubbock, Norman, and Austin.
Yeah, Baylor. Jacob, do me a favor in the next break. Go ahead and look up Baylor's record in West Texas.
I can do it right now.
Yeah, go ahead and look it up. And tell me why, when they said, why don't we play this game in Dallas, Baylor said, yes. Let's play the game in Dallas. Yes. Anywhere else. Anywhere else. Anywhere else. We'll play the game. We'll play the game in Alaska. Just tell us where it's not Lubbock, Texas. That's their record in Lubbock, especially, the last stretch they had was not great for a long time. So
I'm seeing here it says Texas Tech is 23-13-1 against Baylor at home in Lubbock.
Yeah. Yeah. And those 13, not a lot of them are recent.
No, they are not.
Yeah. So, and again, they played until a couple years ago. They were in this neutral site for a decade, really. And then they went back to home and home, which is to me better. I'd rather have home and home than neutral site, especially in conference. I wish A&M and Arkansas would go back to home and home.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they went back to home and home, and Baylor, there was a reason. I mean, Ian McCall was the athletic director then, and it was. I mean, I straight up asked him about it. I said, "Is it because you don't want to go to Lubbock anymore?" He's like, "Well, one, financially, it's better for us, and two, look, they don't win there."
Yep.
There are things about sports that defy logic and numbers sometimes.
Oh yeah, even we're getting so much more analytical and quantifiable, metric driven with how we intake sports, but momentum and belief. Craig has said it on the show a number of times. Belief is a hell of a drug.
Yeah. Okay. What's the analytics for why Baylor doesn't win in Morgantown? Because very few times has Baylor gone in there and statistically been the worst team.
Yeah.
So what's the analytical reason for that? There's not one,
Yeah, I mean, outside of the year Gino was there, has West Virginia even had a quarterback as good as JT Daniels? Well, Will Greer that year.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But I mean, you're not, you're not talking about they have a 70-63 game. That was an affront to defense. Tonight also an affront to defense, but a lesser offense than 70-63. Weird stuff happens to Baylor there. Every single one of your college teams has a place that they go that when it's coming up, you're like, oh, all right, let's just
get this over with.
Just hope they get out of there with a win. Let's get it over with. And that team that they play, it's not even the best team in their conference. This is not like going to Norman, they've won most of the Big 12 titles, or going to Lincoln in 1992.
Oh yeah.
This is going to a team that's in the middle of the pack in the conference, can't beat them in their place.
And yet
0-6.
And they can beat them like a drum at home. It has happened, I believe, aside from the COVID season, every time that they have played together since West Virginia has joined the Big 12, Baylor has beaten West Virginia at home. That might be a bold prediction. I don't know it off the top of my head. But Baylor has beaten West Virginia at home so many times, and convincingly so. And you're right. They've just got this Babe Ruth-like curse when they go to Morgantown, West Virginia.
Yeah. Four times. Let me get into the chat room real quick. Somebody said Paul is right, and usually it doesn't happen in here. And I lost it. I went and I lost it.
Well, you're not going to hear it at home, are you?
No. Do you?
Hell no.
No, not at all. Not at all. Let's see. From Philip, QBs must not wait until the last second to slide. If you're going to give yourself up, do it early and don't risk a concussion or go head first. And Gabriel learned this lesson also. Yeah, I mean, maybe. Well, I mean, Bryce was sliding at the right time. I disagree with that. He was sliding when he could slide, and that was a late hit. And
Talking about Shapen?
Yeah.
Okay, you said Bryce. I was like,
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
he did what he was supposed to. I mean, that's just kind of a freak
Yeah.
thing.
But yeah, there are things that just defy logic. Baylor's 4-1 at home, by the way. The home team in this series is the likely winner.
Yeah.
And I would think, Jeremy Callahan, yep, Paul is right. The roster has holes in it that people had blinders onto. They did.
Yeah.
You want to believe that the team is as good as it was.
Mm-hmm.
You do. You really want to believe that the team is as good as it was. But you cannot think that every year. I learned this when I was just out of college in recruiting. You know, watching recruiting and watching my favorite team get 4-5. This recruiting class is unbelievable. And then watching the team go 8-4, 7-5, at the end of the Bowden era, and then those guys go to the NFL and get better. Well, sometimes it's coaching, sometimes it's evaluation of talent, and there are some of that where there's a misevaluation of talent here. There's some of it where it's just complete and total lack of experience, and then there's some of it where it's just.
I mean,
they don't have any juice right now.
Talk to any Texas or Texas A&M fan about having an amazing recruiting class, and then somehow, some way, it doesn't come together.
Yeah, so my dad went to Texas, and so I've grown up kind of knowing that. And there's kind of a difference though with Texas. It's like you always just kind of expect them to be disappointing. But with Baylor, you kind of expected the culture to be able to elevate this team. And that's kind of why I believed in it. I thought it was a culture thing where you're going to get new guys, but they'll be able to fill in positions. I was never on the 11-1 train. I was more like 8-4, 9-3. But to have no identity is just very, very surprising.
I thought this was a 9-3 team. At it's 8-4 was its kind of 8-4
floor. Was the floor. Yeah,
was the floor. 8-4, 9-3 because of the road schedule they had.
Mm-hmm.
Just going to a bunch of places that they don't classically win. Mm-hmm. And it's because of that. Right now, they're 1-2 on the road. This team has to get over that. And historically, Baylor's not great on the road. By the way, let's see. From Jace Pierce, who is the squarest peg that we have on defense that's trying to fit in the roundest hole? We want to know, Paul. I think they need to move Al Walcott back to corner full time.
I agree.
I don't think he's playing poorly at star, but I think they could get better at corner.
I agree.
And I think they have better other guys who can fill in more ably at star than he is playing right there. That they're losing some maybe spot, some play at corner.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to call out players, but I mean I feel like anytime something like a big play happens, it's typically Mark Milton or AJ McCarty that get beat, and that's just something that my eyes always catch. I don't know if that's always the case, and Snacks has played pretty well. If you put Walcott back at that second corner, maybe that kind of shores up some things. But
I also think the bigger issue on this defense is last year they got pressure, unrelenting pressure on the quarterback.
Yes, they did.
Go back to the Sugar Bowl,
and
unrelenting pressure on the quarterback. That is not happening now.
That was one of the first games I had ever seen Baylor play where I felt that they controlled the entire game, all 60 minutes, because of their defense. And Baylor has definitely lost the ability to hang on to that feeling against any of their opponents this year.
Yeah, which is strange when you bring back your entire defensive line and then add Jackson players. So
yeah, they have not they've not hit that spot at the defensive line yet. If the defensive line can get going, the secondary will be less bad.
Yeah.
Because
the quarterback won't be having all the time in the pocket.
And maybe the secondary isn't as bad as we think it is, but they're, quarterbacks are not. The other thing that when you're relenting and going after a quarterback and just going, is that they see ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a quarterback seeing ghosts right now.
Yeah.
Not happening. All right, we'll take a break right here again. We're going to stick with this. Chat's going crazy right now, so get into the chat a little bit more and answer some of these questions. Paul, Catalina, Levi, Caraway, Jacob Wilson. This is the Postgame Show, 365 Sports.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed and kids club, 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com, call us at 254-753-7675, or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717, or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Welcome back to the Baylor Postgame Show. Paul Catalina, Levi Caraway, Jacob Wilson. On your Thursday night, we'll take you for a few more minutes here, but this should be a wake-up call game for Baylor in a lot of regards. They've got to do some shuffling. And one of the things, look, in the Big 12, Baylor's lost these 3 games they lost by 2 scores a week ago, or 2 weeks ago to Oklahoma State now. They lost by a score to BYU in overtime. And they lost by 3 tonight. So this is not a team that there's a lot of doom and gloom tonight. They're not far away, but they're missing enough to where they're losing these games that last year they won a bunch of close games. Mm-hmm. They won them. They're not winning them now because they're missing those edge plays. And there will be other teams that come back down to earth in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. I mean, that do. TCU looks like the best team right now. What if Oklahoma State rolls into Fort Worth on Saturday and knocks them right in the dirt? What happens to Oklahoma State when they play Texas? What happens to Texas when they play TCU? We don't know. I mean, those things could all even themselves out. And, there could be injuries and there could be things that happen by the time Baylor plays teams. Is Kansas State really for real? Or if you stop the two things that they can do well, like Iowa State did last week, do they have to hope that their defense can keep you out of the end zone?
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I think Baylor's in a weird position because you can go back to each one of those games and you can pinpoint one or two plays where, if Gavin Holmes catches that ball and they win, I'm not going to be that guy or play those games, but I think it's pretty evident Baylor can beat every single team left on their schedule, and they can also lose to every team on their schedule.
That's true for the entire rest of the Big 12. You can beat, and it may be TCU and Oklahoma State should beat everybody. TCU, to me, I mean, they're playing really well right now, but I'm still going to wait and see if they're really loaded for the long haul.
I think they're a bad matchup for Baylor.
Oh, yeah.
But for everybody else, I don't know.
But they're also, here's the other thing. Baylor's not very healthy right now.
No.
At all, and hasn't had consistent health, especially from a couple of people they really do need. Right now, running back is in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Tay McWilliams is still a couple weeks away at least from his injury. That was Dave Aranda at the press conference this week. Richard Reese did break his nose. He had tubes and cotton in there, so he's got a broken nose. So does he play with that a week later? We don't know. It depends on how bad it's broken.
Maybe break out the old style vertical bar on the old face mask, Herschel Walker style, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Or Kenneth Davis, Temple High School, and Bill's legend. Remember, he had the 4 across? Yeah. Squirrel Williams injured again, and he's cursed as well. Was having the best night he had all year and got hurt.
Yeah.
On what should have been a face mask. So there's a lot going on injury-wise with this team, and that can happen to everybody else. There's not a lot going on injury-wise at TCU. As a matter of fact, the one major injury they had was Chandler Morris, who's supposed to be their starting quarterback. Max Duggan's come in and played great.
Yeah. Yep.
So it wound up not hurting them at all, but that is also an outlier in most situations. We'll see what happens with Jason Bean as the starter this week against Oklahoma for Kansas. I think he's going to do well because I think that Oklahoma defense is really bad. But you never know. Things start to have a way of working themselves out as the season goes on. It's just like, we get, what if there's 6 undefeated teams at the end of the year?
6 undefeated teams at the end of the year?
People say that. Like in the national, all work itself. Like, what if all the Power 5 conferences have an undefeated team? What do we do about the playoffs? Has it ever happened? No. It's hard to do.
No, I mean, the Big 12 championship will probably be a 2-loss Oklahoma State team with a 3-loss TCU or 3-loss Texas. So.
I would say it might be 2-loss teams at worst, but you never know.
Yeah,
you could. I mean, look, Texas already has 2 losses.
So two conference
losses. Yeah. But Texas already has 2 total losses, so maybe they could be a 9-3 team in there with 2 conference losses if they lost another one. So, there's a lot to do here, and I do think though that this game has illuminated the fact that Baylor didn't get deep into the portal last year. They got Jackson Player, and they got Josh White, who we have not seen a lot of Josh White. Jackson Player plays a lot. But Jackson Player's a starter, as he should be, because he's a monster. But they really need to look at the roster and fill some deficiencies.
Yeah, if nothing else, like some of the guys that you get in the transfer portal, they're in the transfer portal for a reason because they weren't good enough to start on whatever school or whatever team they were playing for previously. But if you can get veteran leadership, that is a component, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that this team really, really needs. And so maybe you get a locker room presence out of it, even if he's not the most talented player that you could go out and get.
Or you just get guys who don't fit where they are.
Yeah, exactly.
They're good enough to start, but they don't fit where they are. So you find somebody who fits you better. And remember, these are young kids, and they got recruited, and sometimes you make bad decisions in recruiting, where you're like, oh, man, I love it here. No, I don't. Some people are really affected by being far away from home. They don't think so. Because your recruiting trip, your parents are there. Your girlfriend might be there. There might be things like you're just there for 3 days. Maybe just 2. You're having the best day of your life.
Lake Seastrunk, he was Mr. Everything coming out of high school. Went to Oregon, which Oregon was a hot name at the time, but I was a little bit surprised when he decided to come on back home to Waco. But like you just said, sometimes a little bit of proximity to home is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, they don't, or it's just they don't fit where they are, and they go somewhere else and they're good. For example, the coach leaves.
Yeah.
Which is going to happen a lot. Look, there's going to be some teams rated here in the transfer portal.
The Oklahoma team was gutted.
Yeah, exactly.
By Lincoln Riley going over to USC.
Yeah, so those guys just wanted to go with their coach. So there are different things in the transfer portal, but it is like it's free agency in professional sports too. You build your team through recruiting, you build your team through the draft and the pros, and then you supplement with that stuff. Baylor did not supplement, and last year they got away with it. Last year they did supplement a lot. Grant Miller and Jacob Gall and those guys they brought in as transfers to the offensive line, they supplemented there and it worked. They supplemented with Drew Estrada, who was a really key cog in the machine for them last year. They supplemented. This year they dialed it back a little bit more, and they've gotten less out of it. So that's something they need to do. But overall, I don't think it's all doom and gloom, but they have to really find their identity again.
I don't know how. I mean, each week we come on this show and, well, I mean, I only do the away games, and so the BYU and this loss are pretty ugly. But, yeah, they're going to have to get something figured out, and very soon.
Yeah. All right, final thoughts, Jacob.
I mean, if there's something that you can take solace as a Baylor fan is that these losses that they've had, they haven't looked very good, but they've been in these games from start to finish. And like we've said a number of times tonight, this team in this league of the Big 12, anyone can be anyone on any given Saturday, or in tonight's case, Thursday. And so the hopes of CFP way, way out the door. Big 12 title looking more grim by the minute. But, hey, don't stop watching. Don't stop supporting, because this could be a very exciting team to watch going forward.
Yeah. Levi, final thoughts.
Is it basketball season yet?
Oh, no,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I mean, yeah, this team can win any game left on their schedule, and they can also lose. There's a lot of young guys, and they just have to find their identity, plain and simple. So we'll see.
Yeah. Cyclone Steve, your call-in show sounds like my call-in show. Maybe it does right now a little bit, although I'm sure Cyclone Steve's call-in show is why can't we score? Mm-hmm. Dear God, why can't we score? What is the matter with the offense in this entire state? But my final thoughts are they've got to find who they are again. They don't know who that is right now. And if they do, watch out. But that's a hard thing to do. That's a really, really hard thing to do. That's going to do it for us here tonight. Please have a great night. Have a great weekend, everybody. We're back on the air tomorrow from 3 to 6. And we'll recap this game. We've got Ricky Thompson. We've got Grayson Grudhafer. We'll have Sam Bradshaw talking about it. We'll have Taylor McCarg. A lot of stuff to recap this game. Look forward to the college football weekend. For Levi Caraway and for Jacob Wilson, for all of you watching at home, thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody.